talk by Dr. Sean L. Dilly. He's the Director General of Emirates National Schools. Dr. Dilly is a leader, mentor, international author, speaker, and an innovator who's passionate about ensuring students are ready for the challenging and precarious future. The world of work is revolving faster than ever. Students must be equipped with the skills and knowledge to navigate the evolving landscape shaped by the economy's major influences. Dr. Dilly thus utilizes his 21 plus years of educational experience to cultivate a collaborative vision toward future readiness. He has taken his educational experiences, worked with economic development, higher education, and business and industry, and combined them with research on youth underemployment and unemployment to design practical applications to ensure students graduate future ready. Dr. Dilly has served as a superintendent, a deputy superintendent, assistant superintendent, director of secondary curriculum and instruction. He has also served as facilities director, transportation director, career and technical director, and he has held so many other positions, responsible positions. Dr. Dilly currently serves as the Director General of Emirates National Schools in the United Arab Emirates. Dr. Dilly managed and supported over $30 million in school renovations and construction during his tenure and successfully solicited over $500,000 in educational grants and donations. Dr. Dilly has achieved a designation of an innovation zone in 2011 and received the Apex Award, which is for recognizing innovative partnerships between the school districts and the community colleges for the year 2017-18 school year. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together as I welcome onto the stage Dr. Sean L. Dilly, Director General, Emirates National Schools.
I just want to say thank you for the opportunity. I'm excited about sharing with you something this afternoon where I'm very passionate about. And I thought it would be good this afternoon to start with, because I have so much information to try to cram in this short period of time, something that where this started for me. And so it's a milestone, and I want to kick this off with just a very short video, 2-minute video, kind of explaining where this began for me and the work that I'm going to share with you today. Well, anyway, it appears my embedded video is not working, so I do apologize for the technical difficulty. But I wanted to share, and I'll kind of give you a synopsis of what the video was going to be talking about. This was a parental milestone in 2015 where basically I dropped my eldest child off to college for the first time. And if you've went through that parental milestone, you know how challenging that is, because you're allowing that young person to go off. And you have to ask yourself, was she ready? Was she ready to experience the challenges, the new environment and diversification that she was going to be faced with? Was she ready for those challenges? And about a year prior to that, what I had taken over was a rural school district in my first superintendency. And as I drove the nearly 2 hours home from that event, of those emotional goodbyes, and I wanted to share with you, that I had to ask myself the question about other parents. I was now in charge of nearly 4,200 students, and I had to question myself, would they be ready? Would they be ready for what's next? And what I unfortunately have discovered is alarming. Unfortunately, as I've delved into the research, and you look at, this is information from the International Labor Organization, and this is a 2020 report. Basically, they're indicating 13.6% of the world's youth are unemployed. And so what that showcased to me is that young people are not ready. And as I've delved and worked with business and industry, as I've worked with economic development, and as I've explored this from a global perspective, I've uncovered that young people are graduating school not ready for the realities that come in front of them. And so that is a very concerning issue for me as an educator. Because what I recognize is our sole job is to make sure students are ready for what comes next, for societal preparation. And so what I've uncovered and concerned about is what this means for our young people. And this means economic, social, and political cost, ultimately. And sometimes those are difficult to quantify, but there was a 2012 study that was done in the United States looking at roughly the 10 million opportunity youth, as they called them. And that particular study basically determined what the tax burden and the social burden would be. And that tax and social burden in 2012 was nearly $9 trillion. I don't know about you, but that's a lot of money to try to have to deal with from the government's perspective in the United States. And so when I started to explore this particular aspect, I have to ask the question, well, what about the rest of the globe if they're unprepared? Would they not be able to extend the social burden and tax burden onto them? And when you look at that in the nearly 267 million students that are meeting NEET status, not in education or employment or training, we recognize that could escalate into the hundreds of trillions to quadrillions. And so it's being important for us as we continue to move forward that we find ways to ensure our students are ready. And that is a big part of what I'm hoping that we can try to start to do. Because one thing I've learned as an educator is we can't do it alone. We have to work with business and industry to ensure we can make sure our students are ready. And some of the things that's frustrated me as an educator and as I've continued to work is their lack of understanding surrounding economic forces and their influences and what they mean about how we live and work. They have a profound impact. And so quickly, what we're talking about, for those unfamiliar, talking about globalization, we're talking about urbanization, and it's expected by 2050 that nearly 70% of the world's population will be moving to cities. Well, that has a lot of impact, and it has a lot of changes that young people are going to have to deal with and contend with. Technological change, I think this is probably one of the most disruptive influences that we've seen. We know with algorithms, we know with automation, with all of the advancements in virtual reality, augmented reality, we recognize that these disruptive influences are displacing hundreds of millions of workers worldwide and increasing the demand on young people to have to upskill and reskill significant. Environmental sustainability. Currently, the world has 7.9 billion population is the estimate. It's expected to rise to 9.7 billion by 2050. And so young people are going to be faced with trying to solve a lot of challenges with sustaining so that people can thrive on the planet, and be successful and prosper. And so there's so many challenges that exist out there that young people are going to have to deal with. And urbanization and globalization also present the challenges of demographic change and diversity. As we continue to work in a global environment, young people are going to have to navigate the differences in cultural differences, different understandings, and be able to communicate and work with different people. This also brings up another challenge, increasing inequality. Increasing inequality is one of those challenges where young people are seeing a disparity in wages, and we are seeing one of the largest differences in social mobility that we've ever seen. And it's creating all kinds of social issues and challenges for young people, and we understand that it's going to be quite a challenge for young people to address. Political uncertainty is another one that has had profound impact on young people and people globally. And we can just talk about a very recent situation, the Ukraine situation. How far has that affected the economy worldwide? And so just because there are regional conflicts that are happening someplace maybe where you don't live and work doesn't mean it can't impact you in the location that you're at. So it's important that they have the skills to address those particular issues. The final economic force that is growing out there in the research surrounding businesses is personal purpose and responsibility. This is something that is very interesting to me because I have a firm believing in the importance of capturing one's purpose towards to solve many challenges, but personal purpose and responsibility, there was actually a survey done of recent millennials where 94% of millennials indicated that they wanted to have their skills and talents utilized for a purpose. And so it's important that we consider how we capitalize that. And then a similar survey of business leaders determined that there were basically 90% of those business leaders indicated that they knew that they needed to have a business purpose. And 88% of them realized that having a business purpose helped capture customer loyalty. So it's important that we understand what these particular influences are so that students can navigate the many challenges ahead so that they can have a competitive advantage. And one of the challenges with having a competitive advantage is understanding what skills and knowledge they might need. And so some of the work that I've done, I've kind of identified as the future-ready competencies. And those future-ready competencies are sort of non-occupational in the sense of what are the skills that we know kids are going to need, or at least predicted up through the near future. And so I've built those particular lists from research, work with higher education, economic development, and business and industry leaders. I've spent a lot of the last decade really working on a lot of this with those folks. And so these are the lists that I want to share with you quickly today. Agility, adaptability, cognitive flexibility, and resilience. Now, I've sort of categorized these into similar concepts for you, but quickly today, we don't have a lot of time to go through all of these, but closely and what they mean for young people. But resilience is one that has been showing up in a lot of business articles just due to the many challenges of being displaced from work, short-term work relationships with business and industry. And so these things are all going to have a lot of challenges for young people to have to navigate. They're going to have to be critical thinkers, problem solvers, and analytical skills. They're going to have these abilities to deal with the many diverse challenges that they're being faced with in the future. Oral and written communication. I think this is one that we've seen for a very long time. And the proficiency levels are okay, but one of the things that I think that we have to add to this is the cultural aspect or cultural lens. Part of communication is being effective in how we communicate with one another. And so when our audience changes and we're dealing with a different, diverse group, we need to make sure that that message resonates and it can capture what we want to do, achieve our goals. Collaboration, leadership, and social influence. This is another one that is very important for young people to work with. And we have lots of opportunities in education to build these particular skills. But we know as in the work environment, we do a lot of collaborating. We do a lot of leadership. We do a lot of influence to achieve our goals. Creative thinking, curiosity, and imagination. As a former art teacher myself, I understand the value of art and understanding things, but I'm talking about more than just art. I'm talking about the creativity necessary to achieve solutions for the many challenges that lie ahead. I know as you all as business and industry leaders, you deal with many challenges each and every day, and you need somebody that can come up with solutions, right? So we want to make sure our kids have those abilities. We also need to deal with diversity, cultural intelligence, and global dexterity necessary to work and thrive in this environment, where we're dealing with people from all over the world that have different sensibilities, different cultural expectations, different ideas about what it means to live and work. Information, media, and technical proficiency. This is one that I could spend a lot of time on, but we have to teach kids about how to find authentic, quality information. There's a proliferation of lots of misinformation out there. So it's important that we find the ability to do that, but then also the proficiency with technical tools. I think there's a misnomer about that kids are comfortable with technology. They are comfortable with it, but that doesn't make them an expert. And so we have to make sure that they have the proficiency necessary to use tools to be able to solve real-world problems. Initiative and entrepreneurship. This is one of my favorite discussions to talk about because it is something I think a lot of schools don't recognize as such an important part. And entrepreneurship has grown in definition. What they're talking about in entrepreneurship is creating value. And you can monetize that value a lot of times, but one of the things that's so important is teaching students to seek out solutions and ideas and how to build that into solving those problems. So there's a lot of opportunity there to capture a student's passion towards a purpose. Human skills. This is one that is probably one of the most valuable that, if you've ever heard of the gentleman that's a global thought leader and speaks a lot in the U.S., Simon Sinek calls these human skills, and we're talking about emotional intelligence, social intelligence, and we're talking about interpersonal skills and the ability to communicate with people in a way that resonates and creates the solutions that we need. And so human skills are going to be such an important part of making sure students are ready, because these, at least in the foreseeable future, can't be replaced by a machine or a computer at this point, or an algorithm. Job acquisition skills are going to be something we also have to work with. As we're seeing the erosion of long-term working relationships, we have to make sure that students have the ability to make sure that they can find work and be able to stand out, basically, and capture the opportunities that are out there and available to them. And so it's going to be important that schools educate students about how to find those jobs. It differs from one location to the other, so it's important, the types of jobs. If you go to Microsoft and try to go to work versus Google, you're going to see two different types of paths to get there. So students have to be able to learn the different ways in gaining understanding about how to network, how to create those opportunities available to them. And as we see the many challenges that we have, I think it's important that we talk about a concept called professionalism and branding. Professionalism and branding is also important because as students are going to have multiple jobs, some of those predictions are as many as, I've seen as 15 to 20 jobs in a lifetime. I've seen as high as predictions as many as 30 to 40. And so job after job, time after time, students are going to have to distinguish themselves in an increasingly diverse and larger pool of applicants, because as we are moving forward with globalization, just like myself, I came from 7,000 some odd miles away. That competition is for the job I'm in currently. We have to understand that means there's more and more competition, and so they have to create themselves a competitive advantage to stand out and distinguish themselves. There are even predictions that suggest that basically you're going to have to get a talent agent to be able to do jobs in the future, just like a professional athlete or actor. So these predictions are alarming in some ways because many students don't realize the harm they're creating with the social media and some of the things that they're doing right now. So it's important that we teach them about these concepts and make sure that they're ready. And the final one is life skills. Now, this is an umbrella term, but I'll share with you kind of the three main ones that come up in this one. And the first one is financial literacy. Financial literacy is probably the one I've heard most often. And I was doing a lot of work with some groups in the U.S., including banks, to try to bring a curriculum and things to our students. And what I recognized when I came here, I actually already have had a bank here locally reach out to me in our school to try to deal with the same challenges. Young people don't know how to manage money and deal with all of the challenges. And it affects our banks because they can't loan money, they can't start small businesses, and there's a lot of different things. The other aspect of this is time management and organizational skills, and we could go down the list from basic care to nutrition and a variety of other aspects. But those are ones that we need to make sure that we're ensuring students master and are ready to go. So the challenge then is, now that we've kind of created a target, one of the things, you may agree with some of these, disagree, and that's okay. What's important to me as an educator is that we start having this vital conversation right now, because to me, the divide between education and the world of work is growing, and it is increasing rapidly. So it's important that we ensure that students master these. And so I don't have time today, but in my upcoming book that'll be out in August, I talk about kind of some implementation strategies. One's a one-course approach. The next is working with CT or vocational or career-based education and updating those to ensure that our young people are ready, because we know some of these jobs will be automated in the future, and so people need to understand in those career-based programs that they're ensuring that students have the abilities to navigate those many challenges. The next is sort of a combination of a 2-year future-ready competency course and then 2 years of CTE or vocational programming. The next one is a 4-course approach. This allows students to do the appropriate career exploration and also connects students hopefully with business and industry. And that's part of why I'm here speaking today, because I know we can't do this work without business and industry working with us, helping advise us, because you are best poised to ensure that our students are ready, because you know what's happening faster than education ever will. And the final is the PK to 12 spectrum. This is the one that I think would truly transform education as we look at starting at the very earliest of ages implementing these concepts and ideas that I've shared with you with the future-ready competencies and making sure that students are ready. And so as I conclude here today, because I didn't have a lot of time, I thought it was important to kind of share this poem, or portion of poem from Gabriela Mistral. She was a Chilean author, Nobel laureate, an educator, and she says, "Many things can wait. Children cannot. Today their bones are being formed, their blood is being made, their senses are being developed. To them we cannot say tomorrow, their name is today." And to me, today invokes us to be conscious of the need for economic, social, and environmental stewardship. Our roles as stewards of tomorrow compel us to seek out solutions and challenges facing us today and in the future. And so today I invite you to work with education to try to solve these many challenges. And so it's important to me that we have more conversations. I know in this very short period of time, and I'm out of time already, that we try to find ways to work together. And I invite you to reach out to me. And you can reach out to me either shondilly@gmail.com, or you can go to my website at shondilly.com and see some of the information that as I'm growing on my website. So I wish I had more time today to share with you this important information. It felt like a little bit of a race today to accomplish all I've talked about to you today. But what my hope is you recognize there's education needs your voice right now. And so I implore you to try to find partners like myself and others that are open to have these conversations, and so that we can ensure that our students graduate ready and are future ready moving forward. Thank you.